Hello everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would get part two going here on this Creel starter CV. Uh, Basically got what you see here done on the last video. At the end of this video too, I've got a couple other creations by other authors over there. I figured I'd go take a run through on those real quick too. But as in this one, I was just taking a look at it, and I want to get some of the main parts right now. And what I'm noticing is my hangar door is actually a block below where I considered the bottom of this ship currently. Two options I've got. One, raise the hangar door up a block, or two, make the ship go down lower a block. And I think I'm going to go with the second option right now because I kind of want to keep this smooth profile on the top and not raise that up if I can. But these kind of extension arms over here, I'm thinking would be kind of neat if I could shift them downward a block and then even try to get like something that looks like it connects to them better. So I'm going to go for that right now. And this is going to be a copy paste thing. So I'm going to hit the N key, get the N key tools, and we're just going to make a selection here. And I'm going to have to do this for both the right and left side. Copy paste does not work with symmetry on, so you do have to manually do this stuff, but it's still pretty quick. So I'm going to start with this one here, and I'm just going to cut it. I'm going to paste it again and drop it down currently one block row. Paste it again, and then I'm going to go right over to the other side and do the same thing. Get a better view here. Make sure I got the box in decent. Alright, looks good. And you're going to go down one block row. Alright, so now because I'm going to need a block row below the hangar door, obviously, for the floor and all that. Now the landing gear should come down one. I don't know if that's still enough. No, actually, I think it's not. I made that even with the bottom of the hangar door. This drops down a block. I need a block row down here yet. Well, I can modify these the landing gear placement at a different time here. Let's get symmetry on and start hitting this thing. Alright, so now with that new connection here, I kind of want to change this around a little bit to have it look right and look like it would fit better, I guess. Now there's a comment too, basically saying that I do all this stuff and it's like, yeah, I don't really, it's hard to follow what I'm doing, and I get that. I would be totally lost too if I haven't done this forever. It's one of those things. Not sure exactly what I can do about that though, but all I can say is I do plan on getting some more like just straight up like block and texturing and lighting tutorials out, not on like a build like this, but just something in general, I guess, to show more on what's going on how to get all these, what all the different angles you can do with the blocks are, and there's a big learning curve there. But if any of you are really interested in or don't know already how to do all this stuff and really interested on learning the blocks, I would almost recommend like trying to do some just standalone block challenges on your own. And one key element to that would be trying to build a good looking sphere. And I'm not talking using like the curvy round blocks, I'm talking using all the different wedge blocks. Once you can know how to build a sphere that looks good, I think that opens up the possibilities on all the other things you can do at that point in time. And that's kind of, it's very useful because when you're building stuff, like, you'll know how to like set up these different angles and get these kind of curves going with the wedges. And once you know that, you can really do a lot more stuff. But you got to kind of learn that part first, and it's tricky. It takes some practice for sure, but it's really worthwhile, especially if you want to, do crazy stuff and have a lot more options when you're building ships and whatnot. So that's just a side note there. All right, so this got lowered down. I'm trying to come up with some kind of mechanism that connects to it. Of course, I'm going to have to like it too. Right now, it's like, I don't know if I like this. But this might come in handy to what I'm kind of doing here, if I can get it right at least. Because maybe this could be like an extension of the inside of the ship as well. And that's one way to look at it, at least. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what I should be doing here on some of these angles, trying to get this stuff to fit correctly. And what block should I be using for it? Actually, I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't just take this particular slope and just keep on going with it right till it meets up with the... Well, actually, no, I wouldn't want it to go past this point, because this is what I kind of wanted to be like a junction point here. So, do I want to use this particular angle, or would there be a different one that's a better choice? Yeah, getting a little bit too much of that, I think. Almost like it. Not sure if I like this little up over here, or this where it breaks. I'm gonna remove that for now. See if just a straight up angle looks better. I think it does. Okay. Now, keep in mind too, this is the base body. Now with the Kriel especially, after I get this part kind of in shape, I like to add a lot of accents in, I don't know, Kriel stuff, little jaggy edges and light things and all kinds of little stuff to it, to break up the big areas like what you see here, to try to get a little more detail into it. It's gonna be rough though. This part right here. So I think I'm going to run into where one angle doesn't jive with a different angle. This is a common problem that you'll have too when building stuff. And it's so much about trying to find solutions for it. Like, I kind of like this slope here better, but the slope I've got on this back part isn't the same. But I can't really do anything about that because I don't believe there are the proper blocks to make a transition from this angle here over to here being on a side like that. But a lot of times I will tool around and try anyway. Sometimes I'm successful and I find something I didn't realize existed. Other times I fail miserably. In this case, I think I'm going to fail because I'm pretty positive I've got no block choices here. But before I rule it out, I'm going to take a look at some of these transition blocks, which are kind of funky. And hey, look at that. There's one that actually does fit with that. So I was wrong. That's what I like to try. I thought there wasn't for some reason. All right, so next part of this. let's kind of take a look at the thrusters that are in here, and I'm trying to balance this out where I'm planning on 8 of these 1x2 lift thrusters, only 2 forward thrusters of the same size, and only 1 strafing thruster per side. And that's really all I think I'm going to need for all the thrust except for the forward thrust, which I'm planning on 6 of these 1x2 thrusters for that, and for down thrust I'm planning on 4 of the dinky ones, or the 1x1 thrusters. It's basically the same setup that I ran on this ship, and it's how I managed to pull off the CPU by using just pretty much what it needs with thrusters, and a little bit more on the lift and forward thrust, which are your most important thrust for most things besides potentially SVs and HVs. Like a ship like this really doesn't need to strafe, but you do have to have thrusters on the side at least a little bit, otherwise it's just going to drift and float that direction. You don't have any way to tell it not to. So it needs something there. But these kind of ships really don't need to strafe, and that's something I'm trying to get used to too, because it's different than it used to be, for sure. Alright, so back with the Kriel action here, trying to get some spiky action going, or spikiness. It's kind of what these guys are about, or what I'm trying to portray that as. On a side note too, I did make some updates to the Kriel tripod that you see in the back over there. That one is, I spent a bunch of time on the rear section of the ship, which is pretty much dealing with the elevator, and I'm pretty happy right now with my elevator. You wouldn't think an elevator is like something to talk about, like, oh my god, elevator, who cares? But yeah, this is a unique elevator. That's all I can really say. It's not, I haven't ever done anything quite like this with the elevator before, but I've never had an elevator like this to work with before either. This one's different. It's kind of a big elevator. It's certainly getting tricky right here too. I'm just trying to find angles that I think would work out for what I'm trying to do here, and I'm not even sure exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it look nice. That's my main goal. Look nice and not be overly expensive. Now with Kriel, they have more I don't know, cosmetic things going on typically than the humans or the MCRN. So cost-wise, it's potentially, I'm kind of planning on this ship being of higher size class and costing more than the MCRN starter ship. I just think that's going to be a reality when it's all complete. So it'll probably be a little bit heavier. I may have to make sacrifices and not have as much storage because of that. But I want it to be in the ballpark game, so it's not too badly overpriced, or maybe it offers other features that the MCRN one over there does not, and that's certainly something to think about too. Really do wish I could add some like regular launchers or guns on this, so because I got all these neat opportunities and places to put that kind of stuff, but I'm not sure exactly where. I'm going to make another change here, so I'm going to pull that thruster for now, and I'm going to instead put one of these in the side area. Mainly because I have room in the side, and I'm not sure about my little slopey thing going on here where it goes in and back out again. I don't think I really like that. So here, I want to start making this look Kriel. try to get the definition and use some of the characteristics I would have done on other Kriel ships over here. And also give me some opportunities to add some neat looking texture lights and stuff. So what I'm thinking here now is kind of a thin, I don't know, something like this over here, like a ridge line. But maybe I don't want it to come out. Actually, I don't think I do. So we're going to go like that, and then here, I'm going to try to use one of these. How about the thin hollow one here? And I'll line that up to right before where that thruster is. Okay, so the top row, it's all kind of set for a curve, which to me kind of looks more humanish than it does Kriel. Kriel does have curves, but not generally quite like that. What could I do here to break that up or make it look a little more unique? Could try something like that, and then just keep the curve. Maybe the back blocks here. Could put in some kind of wedge there as well. Maybe something like that. Just try to get more and more definition into these side areas, basically. So over here, we don't really need any more thrusters in here. So I'm going to grab some of these. A minute. Stick a couple of those in. But the other way around, I think. So these, basically, when I do this, my idea behind this is kind of almost like an intake for like on a car hood or something like that, where airflow would come through here, and this location here would say be like an intake vent. In Kriel's case, I don't use that particular texture, but I've been kind of using this for vents, more or less. And then take that and then put, even though I don't have much room to work with here, but maybe try to continue with that, with this little trim piece here over the top of that. And okay, so this part here I'm not really satisfied with. I like that block. I think that's a pretty cool looking block, but I don't know if it's accomplishing what the effect I want it to accomplish here. So I'm going to try something different, and we're going to hop into the transitions. I'm going to try to go from a curve to a 45 degree, and then kind of expand that out a little bit from there, I guess. Where do I even want a 45? There's a curve into a 22.5 as well. Could look kind of funky, but I need to find out, though, what it's going to look like. So I could go like that. Yeah, I think I could dig that. Yeah, why not? Let's try it. It's cool that there's so many options, though. I mean, if you don't like one angle, there's always another angle you can try, typically. Okay, so here, I kind of almost want this block here to come out so I can put something on the edge there. So I'm thinking another one of these, something like that. Except I'm going to rotate it because I can see my texture is 180 off from where I'd want it to be at. And what I was just looking at there is like this part here is like one texture. It covers these two surfaces, and this one's separate. Since I was planning on putting another block over this, This would allow me 2 individual textured surfaces, which I typically would go for almost every time, simply because he's got more options on what you can do with texturing that way. This little fine detail, I love it too. That's why I like a lot of these new blocks, this kind of stuff, because it really gives you that I don't know, that fine detail element, and put that over like more bulky areas, and you just achieve a lot more detail, I think, in it. All right, so here, gotta make these go into something, and I'm gonna go for another one of these more specialized blocks for now, something like that, to get a little bit more detail. And I like this hollow one, and an effect I've been typically doing with that is, say you got a block behind it, you can create yourself like a interesting looking texture light. In this case, I could use like that texture, and then once I color it gray, the Kriel lighting color, it'll kind of illuminate under there, giving a little bit of depth, a little more detail than you might have normally got. Alright, so, but as in thrusters, I gotta think, is there any other thrusters I would actually want to have in the arms here? I don't think so. I think that's all of it, except potentially a down thrust. Actually, yeah, this would be a great location to put in these 4 down thrusters. So I'm just using these little bitty ones because they're really cheap on CPU. Plan on putting 4 of them in the ship, so a couple up here and a couple in the back area somewhere. And so yeah, that's you don't need much down thrust with CV especially. It'll still get to the ground. You have gravity on your side, and it's a really nice spot to have some CPU savings, basically. So okay, we've got kind of the outside portion of these little arms done here. Now the inside area, and how does it connect to the hull of the ship, and how can I make it look funky? It's almost like I want to extend these out another block row, but I don't want it to look too bulky and too thick either. Let's try. Let's try to line up some blocks that mesh with what's there already. See if it really want it out that far. I almost kind of know, because I have a feeling that this would be a lot of wasted space too, because I'm not, this isn't going to be really usable living space. And by making this area bigger and bulkier, I'm just kind of set myself up for just wasting room on the ship. And being a starter CV like this, I don't want to waste, well, I want to keep it to a minimum. Try to have it more all about the function. I need something funky here to break this up though. So I'm going to go out and take a look at some curves now. Again, see if I can create some kind of interesting looking effect on the front part here, and if it would work out or not. And maybe not those. Let's try something else. How about the thin version of that, and add a different angle. I may have to address this top block up here yet too. It is different than what the bottom is. Yeah, I'm going to try this. And rather than just putting in the flat one here, I'll put in that. And then maybe a traditional Kriel-ish one of these things. just tone it down with something that fits there. Alright, over here, just want to take a look at these. I don't think this is going to work, but nah, not really. Unless I wanted it to stick out like that. Nah, okay. Scrap that idea. We are creating a little bit of space inside of here. So I'm trying to think on what parts or something could be put there that aren't too vulnerable. That I hate to waste areas, basically. If I got open blocks behind walls or something like that, and I'm not doing anything with it, I feel like it's wasted space. And why I feel that way, if you look at like take a look at like a airplane or a passenger jet or something like that. Those things are tight. I mean, you don't have wasted room on those ships or on those that kind of stuff. I mean, everything it takes so much fuel and everything to make it move that you want to utilize every ounce of or every little area of space you have in that entire thing, and not have anything just sitting there for no reason. It would just make it more expensive and less, more fuel, or suck up more fuel and all that stuff. And that's kind of why I, don't like having hollow spaces in ships, even if it's something as small as this. It just feels like it would be wasting. But in this case, because there are parts I do need to add that it's going to need, like air tanks, I didn't want to put necessarily fuel tanks here because, as I grab a fuel tank, because they're explosive, and these areas here are kind of on the tips of the of these wing things or these extensions, and potentially more vulnerable. So putting in something like an air tank isn't going to detonate or cause a chain reaction if it gets hit. Now, it's not very strong either, but I think it would do the job. So now we managed to get our 4 air tanks in there. Ship might have a total of 6. So that covers part of it for sure. And the more I can get into these side offshoot areas, the more interior space I'll have on the main part of the ship. Alright, so from here, what I'm thinking about doing is doing an inverted angle. So we're coming pretty straight right now, and we've got this angle going this direction here. What I'm thinking about doing is trying to get an angle that comes in this direction here to create like a V here in the corner. Same kind of ideas on what I did with like the Kriel-Beholder and stuff like that. In fact, I might even take this and start it a block row forward from where it was. It's kind of like overlaying different angles over one another to try to create kind of a skeleton or frame kind of effect. And then when it gets far enough in, it might be up to, I don't know. Takes a while though. I mean, all this stuff does certainly take some time. But to be honest, as a builder, this is probably the part that I enjoy the most on building, is doing the block work, coming up with shapes and designs. Texturing is rewarding, but I don't necessarily enjoy doing it. It's kind of monotonous typically. It's fun experimenting with a new style, but once that initial fun factor is done and you see what it looks like and you kind of got it homed out to where you think it ought to be, it becomes a procedure, which is no longer terribly fun. But is definitely needed. And texturing, I mean, besides doing the block work, the number two most important thing on trying to make ships look nice is texturing. Um, and that I put a lot of weight into that. I always have, and always try to keep on making it better, or newer stuff better than the older stuff with texture wise. But the options are limited, and I think I've virtually hit a cap on what I can do there. I haven't been able to really do much more than I've been able to do in the past. I keep trying, but there's only so many textures and things you can do, and I haven't really discovered much in new techniques or new ways to use textures. I keep on trying some of the textures I don't use, but I keep on running into the same thing where it's like I don't really like them, so that's why I don't use them. Or they have the white line problem, and there's a lot of them that do, and that is the number one reason why I don't use so many of them. I don't know. Try to come up with something that looks neat here, because I want I don't know, a lot of body, a lot of surface detail, a lot of uh, things going on, I guess. The more things, the merrier, I guess. But I'm wondering if I probably should join this up to the bottom part. So the idea here, what I'm trying to make it look like, is this is like, if you think like a suit of armor, this is like a shoulder pad. This is the arm, and this kind of covers up that, almost like a protective shield. And this is trying to create the illusion that this whole piece can like do a VTOL kind of thing. In other words, like it could like turn down or turn up. And be like a separate part of the ship that you could basically just mount these sidearms on this thing. So that's the idea I've got, at least. Whether I can pull that off or not is another thing. But I really try to think that way a lot now with the builds. The more you can get in like that, I think the better overall looks you can achieve. And it looks more plausible. Plausible is a big thing for me. I really try to make a lot of the ships, maybe not so much Kriel, but they're alien, they're different, but I try to make a lot of them look like they would kind of work in the real world, I guess, or, as much as I can at least, so they don't look like silly, like, oh, that wouldn't fly. Or if you got like a ship that's flying in the atmosphere, to me, it really should be very aerodynamic looking. I know it doesn't really matter, but it looks more plausible, in my opinion. It's starting to take form. I kind of like the idea that this is only a half block out because I wanted that gap in here. To to create the effect that this is a separate part. And then whatever's going on here is just, I don't know, something weird. Something weird. But to me, this ship so looks like it should have like a big gun sticking out over here. Just seems so fitting. But I know I can't do that. I'm not going to have the CPU for the type of ship this is supposed to be to add a launcher. Oh, well, you know, before I just make assumptions, I really should see what these launchers actually cost. Like, say I wanted to get a couple rocket launchers. Okay, so that's 4800 CPU, 7200 CPU for the pulse lasers. So these are actually more expensive than those. Interesting. So if I had two of these, it would be about 10,000 CPU at the target goal of tier 2 on this ship. I'm going to have 500,000 CPU. Now, granted, either of these launchers would put it well above player unlock level 10, probably close to 25, I bet. Does it say, yeah, unlock level 20 and 25. So yeah, these are not something that could come with stock, but maybe I should just go ahead and create a location to add such kinds of parts. I'm going to grab a couple as a placeholder right now. And then start to analyze the idea, would it be worthwhile for a ship of this type to actually have mount points for weapons like this? Would you actually use that in game, or to upgrade the ship to do that kind of thing, or not? Now it is going to be set up with a shield, so it does have that going for it, but because it's just steel-hulled single layer frame, it's not going to be a super tough ship by any stretch. But maybe if it could even have like 4 of these things mounted in there. See, to me the guns look cool, and that's why although once in a while I do use some retractables, I typically don't, because I kind of want to see the guns. To me, it adds just more to look at on the ship. And that is a primary reason on what I try to do is I want a lot to look at. I want you to be able to look at any part of that ship and be like, oh, this is going on, and this is going on, and then there's this over here, and it's just basically a lot for the eyes to see. And the more your eyes see, the more detail you're going to see, and the better looking the ship's going to be, providing the detail looks good and it's not just stupid looking. That's going to have to stay there too. So I'm a little happier with the arms now. So, okay, so landing gear, come down to this block row. This block row is 1 block below where the current bottom of the hangar is. I probably ought to tie this stuff together before moving on too much further. Not sure if that's going to work out, but I'm going to try to be thin over in this area a little bit for now. And I do get tired of doing the same kind of hangar door setups from ship to ship, and I haven't really found a workaround or another way to really do it. Not that I'm satisfied with. Ramps and other things that can create angles for opening spaces are cool, but the hit points aren't near as good as a hangar door. So I don't really want to use that stuff. I don't want to join that up here, because that would kind of create the illusion that this is a separate part. God, I really have something. I don't want that lining up like that, so I'm going to have to use either this angle, or the one I first had there. Oh, what am I doing? There we go. Actually, I could go with that one. Let's try that. But I'm going to just keep this matching that same angle here. Get the block set up so I can texture it better. And for now, I'm going to take that right across here to that point. I'm going to kind of mimic that on the other side here. Now let's try to make this look better, where it joins up with this other part. So options here. One, I could use this angle, which I kind of like. Yeah, that actually conforms to the round curve on the side pretty good. Now, one other thing too, I probably ought to be concerned about too, is where am I going to put turrets on this thing? Looking at the space here, thinking it's close, but I'm one block short of being able to mount a turret in here nicely. Or maybe I shouldn't have them there at all. I could take and let's say, for at least temporary, build out a bit of an area here, a 3x3 area, and get a turret. Just grab some cannon turrets, probably that's all it's going to have anyway. So we could get a couple like that, so they could face forward and hit to the sides. And then of course I would want something more on the back area too. Now this part here is bugging me a little bit. These side pieces, I'm thinking, are going back a little too far. I wonder if I shouldn't just shave a couple blocks off from that. I guess I'm starting to like this part, but I don't like the back right now. Too blocky, too square. So let's try to go beyond the borders here, and maybe what I ought to probably get into is trying to figure out how I'm going to do the rear thrusters, and maybe that is the element that could make this fit and look right. Alright, well, let's start there at least. So again, cheap ship, let me get some thrusters. I'm not really running any bigger than what these are on a starter CV. I realize, you know, I like to use some of the bigger thrusters. Oh, that ain't the right thing. But they're so expensive CPU wise that at this point in time, unless it's a bigger ship, it's just kind of, it seems very wasteful to me. And I also do happen to like the shaping that you can do on this particular size one. Now the bigger ones you can with CVs as well too, so it's not a big thing. Just experimenting here, seeing what it would look like if I tried a couple of different approaches here. Sure what I could put in here. Kind of want to leave that little bit of jaggy there if I can, or that extension like that. Alright, so the inside part of this, do something like that, and just I don't know about that either. This looks so close to what I was doing on the MCRN. I feel I should try something quite a bit different than this. Maybe it's just because I got the thrusters all positioned the same way as the MCRN one too. Looking too uniform. So let's try something a little different, maybe. I guess when I want to put in 6 thrusters, so that does work out pretty good. Could go for the angled approach, which I would want to use something like this. You could try a reverse angle. Meaning, here, I'll show you. Sometimes this works, and sometimes I don't like the looks of it, depending on the ship and how it's set up, but could technically make some nice little beveled edges around there to make it look like that's a part. But would that look funky having thrusters like that? Just trying to see how that would fit in the body. One aspect I do like, and is trying to match angles. Like for here, if you look at this part here, it's 45 degrees. When I built a bevel around this, it would also be 45 degrees, but at the opposite angle, kind of fitting. Well, anyway, it's worthwhile enough to find out what will happen if I try this. I guess what I'm thinking about now is, does this look Kriel or not? Trying to fit the theme is important too. I don't know. I don't know about that. So I guess I didn't really want stuff sticking out that far there. I kind of wanted to keep that area a little more slender, similar to the shaping that was done on these guys over here. I could try this approach too. I don't hate it either. But, alright, try again. Okay, attempt 3. I'm going to try to go for something like that this time. Actually, what is the gas? Oh, the gas was running the bigger thrusters, so those rules don't apply there. So let's say that these were tucked in more. I had the angled versions, like there, there. Maybe they came out one more than that. I don't know, maybe that could work. Let's see what happens. Just have them cosmetically make that look alright. Oops. So that's that. It's all right. Let's try a different angle here. Alright. Keep on trying this idea out. So, what about an angle into a curve? Maybe that would make that kind of obsolete. So then I try to make it look like there's some kind of arm that attaches this. Or not even an arm. How about a bevel? Oh man, I'll have to change that angle again too. Or transition it to it. Let's see. No, that's gonna work. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, I knew there was one that didn't work. I I think it's this one. This particular transition going from like that to that. I don't believe there is a block for it. So I'm usually okay with, because I don't particularly like that transition anyway, but alright. Well, rear thrusters to me are really important on a ship as well. It's just, well, all their like thruster pods, if they look cool, it's going to make the whole ship look better. And I always try to do something different from from one ship to the other, so I never try to have the same thruster layout or setup. A little more challenging yet with Kriel though, because it's a little more complicated anyway, and some of the stuff I'm trying to avoid to have them look too human. Get rid of these blocks again. Yeah, I'm more or less liking these front arms over here, though. I think that does look pretty good. This part, I still want to create the illusion, but I kind of want to fill this in with the roof line so I can join up this space with the inside of the ship, and not waste all this room or potential room for nothing. But that would require me, at least on the back side here, to make this, although try to keep it look like a separate piece, but to kind of join it anyway. So let me try some things, see if anything feels okay. Looks okay, I should say. I think that could work. If I keep this a half block in here, and also kind of help separate that part. So that's pretty boring, but could curve back in and around on the bottom side. And here, one last thing here. I probably ought to start wrapping this up and show you that other stuff. What I'm going to do real quick is what I typically do when I'm building stuff too, and it just helps me see it better. I will go and replace all the textures with the flat metal, and then I will do very similar with the color. And I typically just go with like a gray here, so I can get this, I don't know, gray box look, I guess. And just kind of take a look at how that really is looking. Turn off the flashlight a minute. And yeah, I really like the placement of these launchers here. And I might have to just, maybe that'll be the gimmick on this one versus that one. That this one might have a little less storage on it, but it is set up to add in like a tier 3 block, and if it needs it, and some launchers, make it a little more fierce in the over the other one, which would be a very good characteristic of Kriel anyway, because that's kind of what I intended them to be, is very, very warlike, very crazy. All right, well anyway, that part is looking pretty good right now. Some more progress on the body. Still, it's taking longer. If you followed the Wayfarer, I had the Wayfarer body built a lot quicker than this, but the Wayfarer is basically a big box where I'm really trying to go much more shapely on these other ships. which I enjoy more anyway. The Wayfarer, actually, I didn't, you know, it was neat because, you know, I was just trying to make a ship that worked and was cheap, but it wasn't one of those fun builds. It was very, I don't know, similar to other things that I've tried to do in the past, and wasn't too exciting. So, okay, on the Kriel here, here I'm going to go to mood lighting because it's Kriel. The elevator I brought up earlier is, this is kind of trippy. I'm really trying to go for some different stuff that I just haven't done before. And it's rare that I would ever have space in a ship to do this kind of thing. But as you go up the elevator, of course, you get to your, what I showed in a past video. So you have your siege bridge over here. But going up a little bit more, it still looks like a very typical elevator until you get to about here. Then things start getting weird. You start to see that all the space around the elevator kind of expands out, and there's a lot of texture lights, and we got some blinky lights and things like that going on. But what's neat is I managed to put a lot of core parts in the back of the ship. Like, for instance, here's the shield. So that's a nice part I can get out of the way, out of the center of the ship. And this elevator going up, if you look on the outside of it, which you typically would never be at, it's kind of got a lot of crazy block things going on in here. Beyond just putting in a shield in the back part, I also threw in Wi-Fi. There's another side room going up here, which is here. And then I managed to get offline protection and gravity generator in here. And going up and down here too, I also embedded some fuel tanks and oxygen tanks going up the sides of the elevator. Now, this is just part of the elevator, so when you get to the top, now this is coming into the main ship here, and typically I hate the glary effect of like lights hitting like a smooth surface at some angles. In this case, I think I'm going to go with it because I'm going to try to make that more, I don't know, make it look cool. So basically, this is the other part that was done, and this is going down to the elevator through the back portion of the ship. And there's actually some interesting little holes here that you can see the gravity generator and offline protection down below there. And it's kind of an illusion too, because this whole thing is built on an angle to match the stairs and create some kind of weird looking pattern, I guess. Again, being Kriel. Now, one thing I was concerned about with the staircase, I was like, oh my god, what happens if you are screwing around? Like here, I'll get out of God mode here, and let's say I'm walking over here and I fell over here. Am I going to get stuck? And on this side, yes. Darn it. I just tested that the other day. I swear I did not get stuck. Maybe I did it on this side, though. Maybe it's a difference between offline and that. But basically, I was able to, yeah, fall right through here down into this room. So I thought that was kind of cool. But now I'm getting stuck on the other side. I don't have any block space to add guardrails is a problem. Not sure if that would really make a big difference or not anyway, but yeah, it looks like, yeah, there's a difference between the gravity generator and the offline generator on its collision. One lets you fall through and the other gets you stuck. But I could, yeah, without going into God mode or even using the jetpack, I was able to jump back out of there, so I guess it's not a big deal. So that's kind of the little bit of work that was done to this. And actually, I say a little bit, but this was pretty time-consuming, just building this area and trying to come up with what I wanted to do and get all the parts in here. And looks like I'm still missing a texture. It happens all the time here. Get something in place here in a minute. So moving on to the last part. This is going to be a long video. I grabbed some things that were on the workshop here, and one I happened to see yesterday in Excalibur's challenge. and this is by Pears-CV-76. Is the CV-DSEV-Nautilus. And this is based on the Nautilus in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea Disney movie, as well as a ride in their theme parks, also called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So it is basically a submarine that was designed to ram ships in the water. Hence all the spiky action going on here. Basically rip apart, especially wooden ships, very easily, making this pretty fierce submarine. But what I really like about it, though, is the look and the style. I love the idea of like these round, like submarine-like windows, the shark-like look to it, the texturing and skinning to it. It just, is made to look very rough, but it's cool. It works with this theme really well. In the shape, it's got that kind of shark look to it, and just looks dangerous. And it's just inside too. It's I don't know. It just, everything fits. It just, to me, it fits like this is a more believable thing. It just it's not real big inside, but it's got lots of neat little things going on just everywhere here. And beyond that too, it has kind of this double layer hanger on it where you have like a top section to dock in some SVs. In fact, on the workshop too, there is a matching SV to go with this. I don't have that spawned in here. And then down over here, you also have like this HV hanger, and this has, of course, a whole lot of neat action going on with how everything opens up, and like the turret comes down. Oh, I manually triggered something over here. But like if you're kind of come in with an HV, it'll pull in all that stuff. It opens up all these doors. And then you're inside, and that's cool. I like all the moving parts. Pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, awesome work, Pears-CV-76. This was a redesign of a very early version that he made of the same thing. This is it's a little more than a redesign. It's a complete rebuild, and it's a lot bigger than the original one was as well. But it's just very very dialed in, much more shapely and things like that. So on the next item here, this is I just glanced this morning, and this I think is in the current top slot on the workshop. This is by Bolo. This is a CV mining vessel, and that's just, this thing is so cool. It's industrial. And it's got a lot of storage. It's got 6 320K storage units. But I just really dig how this is set up. It really does feel kind of realistic and industrial. You have these walk bays out here. You have your mining drills at the front to get all the action done. You have this really cool looking cockpit up here, overseeing everything, and other things too, like details like these metal arms here that come out with the holes in them. That's just cool. I like all that stuff, all this intricate stuff going on here, and the piping and how it meshes and joins up with these other parts, and it also has a lot of other it has turrets going on and a lot of lift thrust. And the interior is pretty slick as well. First, obviously, you have this whole like platform here, almost like an oil platform or something, to walk around out here. And then you've got a bay over here to land a SV. And this is the next thing I was going to show over here. And then, let's see, you get up into the inside ship area. Make sure I got some. Oh, I ran out of fuel. and just a lot of stuff going on here. It's basically cool looking signs like, you know, cargo capacities. Someday I really hope that there is a way to link up LCDs to in-game things. Like if I could pull a value of like your speed or thrust or how much weight is in each cargo bay and display that on an LCD in real time, that would be really, really cool. So you could make all these signs, like this sign here, literally, if it was linked, you know, through whatever code is behind the sign, and there's already HTML in this sign, you can tell because of the color change, and that's done with this kind of stuff here. But say, you could say, hey, grab this data here and display it on this line. So there's just a lot you could do with it. I know some other games that are similar do functions like that. Space Engineers I'm thinking of mainly. But I wouldn't doubt that someday Imperium will do that too. I mean, it's not, you know, there's bigger fish to fry, I'm sure, but it's one of those quality of life things that just makes things kind of cool. I don't know. But let's see. Also, oh, looks like you got some access to some of your main parts here, warp core and other stuff. That goes back down. Am I above it? Or am I missing something? I was at the bridge earlier, and now for some reason, I'm struggling to figure out how to get there. Oh, duh. Go up at this elevator. Yeah, here's the bridge. So, no, that's not the bridge. Where am I? Oh, I'm out the back of the ship. Wonder why. Duh. I have to go across here, which is like the fuel room, and then down this way. Yeah, okay. And here is the inside part of this cockpit to actually move this ship around here. And for its size too, it's pretty. It flies nice, very agile. So yeah. Anyway, really, really cool stuff going on. And if you notice too, when I'm flying this around, you've got some heads-up LCD displays too, like mining laser, multi-tool, stuff like that. Very cool, awesome work there. Very creative, very industrial-like. Looks like it has some pretty good function too, and I really like having like this back landing pad as well. Some cool stuff going on everywhere. So the next one here, this is by CrazyZ, and what am I doing? This is the ALV Rhapsody. And this, he kind of showed me a little bit of the ship when he was building it, and he did some things a little different. He kind of built the interior, or parts of the interior first, but not all of it, except for like the front cockpit area. But you know, with CrazyZ on his typical ship is he likes to build these higher end luxury vessels, and this is definitely no exception to that. Has a huge amount of thrust power. The strafing on this thing is insane. There's some pretty cool doors and everything like that going on here too. But yeah, just walking in, I love the styling. It's very clean. A lot of your parts and things are tucked away behind like louvered doors, and everything's made to like form fit around things. And you've got you know, a couple quality of life things here, like LCD updates, changing like the colors, so you know if it's active or inactive. That's a really cool feature. I'd like to do more of that myself, but I usually have issues with trying to stuff enough LCD projectors in the area to be able to pull that off. Usually I don't have much room for them. Oh, yeah, over here you got a cargo box and kind of like a little, I don't know, kitchen area, like a place to store bread. And that's so cool too. Just taking a look at like electric range, you know, and all that stuff lights up when you get close to it. And then even on the front part there, kind of like that. That's some kind of oven, which you gotta have, you know, if you're gonna be, you know, out like flying around in space, you're gonna need, you know, all this nice luxury stuff. Obviously, a couple passenger seats. This is, oh, that's okay. That's the flashing lights that we're seeing outside. And over here is the drone hatch, currently closed. And the drone hatch would be right above here. And so that gets that opened up, and it's actually kind of like two layer thick on that. And then you've got a bed over here on the side, and kind of a really neat way to display a armor rack, kind of inside this area through all this stuff. That's pretty slick. Of course, your exterior lights as well. I gotta have that. And then you get into the cockpit, and this has a bunch of heads-up display stuff going on. Tells you about your performance mode, lights, drone hatch, flashing lights, constructor. Basically, you know what's going on up here. Then, of course, you have some, you have your pentaxid tank, storage control, or is this ammo? Yeah, this, okay, so you got ammo, so you got 2,000 ammo over on this side. And you've got quick access to fuel and, that's, yeah, O2 over there. I like that too. Now, the only other, there's two other voxel building type games I played. One is Minecraft. And Minecraft, you know, you didn't have a P menu, and everything in Minecraft, not that it was as complex as what Imperium is by any stretch, but it had some, you know, I got used to having manual boxes, you know, where I would walk up and I would put stuff in a place or whatnot, and having quick access to consumables like this, I like that. I know you don't have to have it. You can do all this through the P menu, but just, you know, like say I was carrying some fuel around, I could walk up here, I could pop it into the O tank or the oxygen tank, etc. So that I have always liked that, and I try to do that on most of the builds I do. But I know with the P menu, you know, you can just do it here. It's technically easier. Speaking of P menu too, there's a lot of options on this. So basically, you have secondary controls for all these things, switches that you see in the ship. Plus, you also have a performance mode. This ship does have a shield as well, and warp, so it really does have just about all your main stuff going on. And flight-wise, it is a fast ship. And what's really crazy on it too is I think the strafing is really good on it. So if you were buzzing around shooting at POIs, you can kind of duck and dodge pretty quickly with this ship. Anyway, yeah, I definitely thought this one was very cool as well. So I'm a fan of CrazyZ anyway, but I'm a fan of a lot of authors. In fact, you know, I trying to spend a little more time to take a look at a lot of the stuff made by other people too. I mean, I learn stuff from it too. I mean, everybody does some things, and some people come up with some really interesting ways to do stuff that just looks cool, and it's just like stuff I never thought of, and so on and so forth. So anyway, that'll wrap it up for probably the longest video I ever made. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to upload this sucker now, but anyway, you all have yourself a good weekend. I'm gonna keep on going on with the build parts to this one, and each time try to get it a little bit further. Hopefully the next iteration of this, I can get the body wrapped up blockwise. That would be the game plan, at least. But each time I'm going to keep on trying to enhance it until I can get it to look similar to the style that I'm really trying to pull off, and the Kriel-Gast is similar to that. So it's rough because you can typically make SVs look better than CVs due to the scaling of the blocks. I don't have as many options or as many blocks necessarily to work with for the size that it is. But hey, it's a CV, and I am happy that it is looking for far different than other starter CVs I've made to date. Most of them were boxy. This was the first one that I really tried to go a lot more aerodynamic and shapely with, trying the same thing over here with the Kriel, but trying to do it in Kriel fashion. And then it needs more. It needs more accents, and it needs more things to make it really, really look right. But in the end, I'm pretty hopeful it'll come out nice. Even if I got to redo sections again and again and again until I can find something that I'm happy with, like I did with the thrusters back here. And this might not be the final thruster setup. I might change that around again. I don't know if I like that or don't like that. I guess it's going to have to depend when I get more done if it fits in well or doesn't fit in well. Anyway, y'all have a good weekend. See you later.